gonna go live. And all right, looks like we're live. Cheers, everyone. I am Amy Mitchell with Houses of Windsor, and this is Virtual Tea Time with Amy. And today my special guest is Connor Tinglum. Hey, Connor.
Hi, Amy.
Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while.
I know, I've been trying to get you on for quite a while.
I can be recluse sometimes.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So I see you're drinking something. What are you drinking?
Well, I ran out of your tea that you gave me because I had that in like 2 days. But I have some type of pumpkin spice. It's from Harney and Sons.
Oh yeah, Honey and Sons. That's a good one. Very nice. Yeah, pumpkin spice.
I feel like now that it's officially the holiday season, it's a good flavor.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I actually have a holiday-ish type flavor. I'm doing vanilla chai, which I feel like chai is always good for fall through winter. So, and it's of course it is a Houses of Windsor blend.
Of course.
And this is my little cup. I've started using, so I used to just always have 2 cups that I used when I was like on Zoom calls and stuff. And then actually it was Elizabeth that mentioned when we were talking about teacups and teacup, like people's personalities, how you can see it through which teacup they choose. And she was like, well, you should see, she goes, have you ever just tried to pick a different teacup and see like how it makes you feel? I was like, no. So now I do that. Now I have like my, I don't know, probably 10 favorite teacups that I like rotate through.
I think I have 2 mugs that I use, and I always use mugs for tea. And I use them because they're my favorite theme, but also because they're the largest and I can hold the most coffee because I'm more of a coffee drinker.
Right.
So my top favorite is Genie from Disney.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
A little lamp on the back.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, so you're like this guy that I know through the British American Chamber, and he's also in the Calling All Tea Timers and Anglophiles group, and his name is Aubrey, but he says that he drinks for quantity. So he drinks out of like a beer stein. He drinks his tea out of a big beer stein. So you're similar to that. And when I'm not, when I'm just working, I'll drink out of like I have like a tall Santa mug. So I go for quantity too.
Yes, not when you're on camera though. So.
Yeah, not when I'm on camera. I mean, I have to stay on brand, right? So
I would break, if you ever gifted me, don't gift me a teacup because it will break.
Really? That's
you
hilarious.
Can't trust me.
Well, that happens. That's part of being a teacup owner. You just have to hope that it doesn't happen to your absolute favorite one, which, knock on wood, it hasn't happened to me yet, but I have broken teacups. If you drop them on the right floor, just like a million pieces.
Yeah, I'm surprised my phone hasn't become a million pieces yet.
Oh, really? Do you have a cover or anything with it?
No,
I am screen bold. Protector?
Nope.
Oh, wow. See, people think I'm crazy because I don't have the screen protector, but I have like the thinnest of cases here. Like it's just like the little plasticky ones. I've dropped this thing a million times and like down on its face. And it's still good. So I don't need the big crazy ones. But okay, so I put in the caption that we know each other through our award-winning BNI Chapter, Professional Connections. And so Connor, why don't you tell everyone, what is it that you do? What did you come into our chapter for?
Yeah, so I came into our chapter as a health and nutrition coach, specifically working with using blood tests on my clients. From that blood test, I can see some specific aspects of the body and how well it's functioning or how much it's not functioning. And these are things that surprisingly doctors don't check for in like a general diagnostic or blood work. So it just gives me that bit of extra information to give some more specialized and targeted care and treatment to my clients and patients.
Right, that's awesome. And the company that you, I guess, is it you work with, however you want to say it, you say, where are they from again? What European country is it?
They're from Norway.
Norway. Okay.
Yes, yes.
I was gonna say Sweden, which is probably a horrible mistake.
Either works because their headquarters are in Sweden. So.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, then I meant to do that. That's awesome. So, when did you discover that company and like that you wanted to do this? And I'll get into your background before this because I love asking you about that too.
Yeah, so I guess I've been doing health and nutrition in a semi-coaching aspect for 5 to 6 years now.
Mhm.
And I didn't find out or even know about this company, Zenzino, that I work with now, until about June, May-ish.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I was very, very against using any type of other like product or direct sales in
Mhm.
my business and my coaching.
Right.
And I had to be like glued down and like forced to take it by my husband, who's Norwegian. So
I
obviously
love
that's how I found out about it.
it. Right.
And then once I like finally gave in and
Mhm.
like took the products and like really looked into the science of it, I was like, oh, dang it. Yeah, this is really good. So I couldn't not use it.
It's like, so was he using it like the whole time? Like since you've known him, has he always been using that product? Or are you using that
No,
line?
it was just a couple of months before that. I think
Oh,
he
okay.
started looking at it in February of this year
Mhm.
because one of his best friends that he grew up with and literally lived like 2 doors down from in
Hmm.
Norway. She is a part of the company and uses it over there in
Okay.
Norway. And so she mentioned it to him during
Mhm.
COVID time happening. And she's like, "Hey,
Right.
let's look at this now." And so it took a good 3 to 4 months to convince me.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, so you said you were doing sort of like health coaching, and I know the answer, but I want I want you to share with everyone. Where were you working that you were essentially coaching your coworkers, right?
Yep, yep. I prior to COVID, I doubled as a health coach and also a musical theater performer.
Mhm.
And the last two contracts that I did were on Disney Cruise Lines performing. And
Mhm.
one of the shows, Genie, hence the Genie mug.
I love it. That's awesome. So wait, you were the genie in one of the shows?
I was. So on the cruise lines, there's each ship has like 3 hour-long Broadway style stage shows.
Hmm.
Uh, and most of them make up their own story. There's always like one known one.
Right.
And one of the ones that's kind of made up a story, the
Hmm.
genie takes this doctor who's also a single father along this
Hmm.
journey to believe in magic.
Oh.
And I somehow coerced my way into convincing them to cast me in that role. It was so out of left field that even the director during rehearsals laughed at our personal, like our inside joke of calling me Teeny Genie, that he actually put it in the show. So I called myself Teeny Genie in the
Oh
show.
my gosh, that's hilarious. That's awesome. So is that your favorite one of like all the characters you played throughout the years? Or is that just one of them?
So I'd say that was my most rewarding role to
Hmm.
play. My favorite role to play was Peter Pan because I got to
Oh,
fly,
oh,
which also hazard pay, which is always nice.
that's awesome.
And then my like most the role that I wanted to do most and that is most precious to me is doing LeFou in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fun. So, okay, I have a bad Disney question. Which one is that?
So LeFou is the bumbling buffoon who's Gaston's sidekick.
Oh, okay. That's hilarious. That's who you wanted to be.
Yeah, it's a great role. It's really fun, especially because they did the book musical on the ship
Hmm.
after the new live action Beauty and the
Oh,
Beast, which kind
okay.
of
Yeah, yeah.
switches the story up a little bit and
Hmm.
gives the characters a little bit more meat to their bone.
Right. Oh, wow. That's really fun. So, okay, Peter Pan, any crazy stories where things went wrong or almost wrong?
Well, oh yes. Oh, I mean, there definitely were a time or two where the fly system wouldn't work, and you don't know if that's going to happen. So like I'm about to do my like movements to go up and
Yeah, to get
fly,
up.
and then I don't feel the system pulling on me. I'm like, okay, and then I have to perform and like
Right.
a 1.5 minute song, just running around a barren stage with fog because like so like half of my body is covered, and I'm like, okay, I gotta save this somehow.
I love it. It is, the show must go on. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if you can fly or not.
Yes. The worst, and I did almost get really hurt from
Oh no.
instances with that, is because there's fog on stage. How they do that is out in the wings, like right before you get onto stage, there are little circles in the
Mm-hmm.
floor that lift up and then release the fog onto the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to run off stage, which normally I'm in the air, so I like
Yeah,
grab
yeah,
onto
yeah.
something, but I have to run off stage and I forget that there is a lifted giant metal circle
Oh, jeez
and
Louise.
I tripped over it and fell. Luckily not hurt, but
Okay, that's good. And did you fall quietly, or could people in the audience hear? Did you
oh no,
shout?
people heard. People heard.
Oh my gosh. Well, that makes for a good story when they go home.
It does.
That's amazing. Um, okay, so I want to ask you, what is your special interest or hobby or obsession that can't be work related, but something
um,
that's like your thing that you like geek out on or people know you for?
So I guess right now I am very obsessed with a certain game on the Switch, which is like a PC game and also like on Xbox and PlayStation and everything. But it's kind of like if you know Fortnite, which I don't really know
I know
Fortnite.
of it. I don't know how it works, but I've heard the name.
I just know that it apparently is like Fortnite. So if anyone
Okay.
knows what that's like, it's like that, but like spells and like magic. So I'm very much a magic person.
Okay.
Um, but that's just like a kind of like a nice little thing that I do in my free time. My
Mhm.
real obsession,
Yeah.
that is like very uniquely mine,
Mhm.
is my love of fungi and mushrooms. Uh,
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. I'm so glad we got onto this because I totally forgot we've talked about this before. Okay. So, for the people who, okay, so I guess explain it first for anyone who has like no idea what you're talking about. Because for me, I have like, a bit of mushroom hunting experience as a kid with my mom, but you're like
yeah,
next level. So, how do you
I
explain
am.
it to people?
So it started off because I needed to take a science credit in college, and I heard an easy one was this class called Fungal Jungle. So I signed up for that with my friends just for fun, and it ended up being the most fascinating class I took at university. Um, you basically just learn about the whole fungi kingdom, which is
Hmm.
it's its own kingdom, like where there's plants and animals and
Yeah.
fungi.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
the world would not be able to exist without them.
Yeah.
They are the most important things on this planet, I would have to say. But to that point, I got really obsessed with it, and as I have a tendency to do with things. And yeah, I started to learn how to identify mushroom or different
Hmm.
fungi out just like in the world.
Yeah.
And just so happened, the man that I met and married ends up being from Norway, like land of mushrooms.
That's
And
perfect.
his minor was in biology with a focus in fungi and
Oh my
mushrooms. So it was match made.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, what are the odds?
Yeah, like really weird specific love to like
Right.
share. And we didn't
Right.
know that for a good year or so.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
But it was it
So,
was
oh,
it
sorry, go
was
ahead.
great. No, I guess continuing to, it was great. This past, we spent a month in Norway
Hmm.
because we wanted to get away from COVID, and he has citizenship there. Um,
Right.
and I think throughout the month that we were there, we identified, very confidently identified around 28 or so, I think it was,
Yeah,
mushrooms.
that's
And
awesome.
we ate around 15 to 16 edible mushrooms that we identified out of
Oh,
those.
wow. That's cool. So, when you say you're identifying them, do you have like mushroom book that you're referencing, or is it like an app now? What do you what do you do?
Yeah, definitely books are the best way to go because there is so much fine detail
Mm,
in the identification process because you can have two that are almost the exact same except for a tiny difference. And you have
okay.
to, basically the rule of thumb is if you cannot match the description 100%, if there's
Yeah.
even like one tiny thing that's like, oh, maybe that's different, throw it out.
Right.
It's not
Oh
worth it.
wow. Okay. Okay. Don't need it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So of all the ones you identified, then you identified that only like half of them were safe to eat, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And I'm sure we picked some that were just fine to eat, but we
Mhm.
just could not be sure. So
But yeah, just in case.
yeah.
Because, well, most likely will it just make you really sick, or are there a bunch of them that will kill you? What's the
It
what are the risks?
there's like one or two that would kill you, but you would have to eat like a pretty substantial amount, like
Okay.
more than just like a spoonful. You
Right.
will get really sick from them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But most it's just like a bad gastro
Oh, okay. Okay.
But an interesting thing is that one of the important parts of identifying is
Mm-hmm.
tasting. So you
I was
have
gonna
to,
ask that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So you have to put it in your mouth and chew it and see what the flavor is like. Some are really spicy and like peppery.
Oh, weird.
Um,
Yeah.
some there was one that was like sour, almost like a citrus type of sour, but
Yeah, yeah.
without the citrus flavor.
Uh-huh.
Um, but those are like the two most distinct. Then it's like, oh, this is earthy, or this is a fairness, which
What
basically
does
earthy.
fairness mean? What is how else would you describe that? What is
I think
fairness?
it's kind of like weedy, more
Oh,
so.
okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
funny. So, but you say that's part of identifying it. So, at what point of identifying it are you supposed to put it in your mouth? Because if it's poisonous, like
So
what?
you can, as long as you can chew any, even the most deadly mushroom, as long as you spit it out and you don't swallow any of the actual like fruit
Pieces?
of it,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. That's crazy.
Some will like burn your tongue off, but you won't be harmed.
That's so, did you find any really spicy ones, or what ones did you find that you guys tried there?
So there was one that we kept trying to find that we
Mm-hmm.
knew was a really delicious edible, and it
Mm-hmm.
has like three or four very close lookalikes that are
Mm-hmm.
all in the same family. So I knew that okay, well the good one tastes like herring or like kind of like crab meat.
Okay.
Uh, it tastes much better when you cook it. But then all the ones that are like it are some of the most spicy ones around.
Oh, wow.
So I wouldn't even look at any part of it. If it looked like it, I would just take a piece, chew it, and be like, okay, no, it's spicy.
That's crazy. So when you're out, okay, so when you're doing that, I'm assuming you're like walking out through, are there like trails or like are you just walking through fields where you go or like woods kind of
Yeah, so I
situation?
mean, different terrain make for a wide variety of different mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So one, Kenneth, my husband, he lives on a farm in Norway. So
Mm-hmm.
having like cow pasture is good
Oh,
for
right.
certain ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then also they own on that farm is a mountain. So
Oh,
mountain
okay.
terrain with like marshy, that was
Yeah,
some
yeah.
other. And then I mean, especially in Norway in that climate, anywhere you step 4 feet and you'll see a mushroom.
Wow. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So are you just picking them right out of the ground and tasting them? You're not like washing them off or anything?
Oh, I'll definitely we'll wash them. Well, we won't wash them, but we will brush them from any of the dirt.
Okay.
I only taste if it's like if I don't know what it is. There is a good 10 or a dozen that I can just look at and know exactly what it is
Oh,
because
okay.
I have identified them over and over again.
Right, right. Okay.
Yeah, you definitely have to do that first.
Okay. Okay. That's great. Yeah, I was just curious because I know I told you before that the only mushrooms I have experience with where my mom did mushroom hunting up in Indiana, were the ones that I only know to call them sponge mushrooms. I don't know what they're,
Yeah.
you know which ones I'm
They're
talking
called
about?
boletes.
Okay. So those. um, and those were always really good cooked, like just in a skillet with butter or whatever. That's kind of how we eat them. But so my mom did that as we were kids. And then when I was in college, I remember driving down the road with like my college boyfriend or whatever, and we saw like a, you know, like roadside stand or whatever, like a little farmer's market thing, and they were selling those, and I was like, oh my god, these things are so good, like we have to buy it. So I bought them, got him home. I was gonna cook him right up, like, you know, and like I rinsed him off in the sink or whatever, and then like put him in the skillet, cooked him up, ate him, and then I was telling my mom about it later. She's like, "Did you soak them first?" I was like, "What do you mean soak them?" She was like, "You have to like put them in a bowl of water for a while and let all the things crawl out of it, live in it." And I was like, "Oh god, no." She's
Extra
like,
protein. It's
exactly. Yeah,
fun.
she's like, sometimes she would see like, you know, centipedes or whatever crawl out of them. I was like, oh my god, we've already eaten it. That's so gross.
Yeah. I would just do that by hand and just figure if I would get the sponginess out of it because that's where
Mhm.
they would hide. And I'm like, no, I'm
Oh,
not gonna
okay.
waste my time with that. And if I can like see trails of maggots, like just a few, and I can
Uh-huh.
like pick them out, then I'm good. If there's too many, then I just throw it out.
Oh
But
my
I mean,
god.
you're not gonna get everyone out. So
Well, I know, but I didn't even know maggots could be a thing. You just made it
that's like
worse.
the main thing with mushroom hunting is like if you find a really good one, but like ah dang it, the bugs got to it first.
Oh man. So weird. So maggots are in it for some reason. I just thought maggots were always in like, I don't know, dead like animals and stuff.
Yeah,
They
I
hang
mean,
out.
if you think of it, it is a rotting, really good food source. So that's
Okay.
something that I guess a fly or other animals or bugs that have larvae would want to.
Right. I see. I see. Yeah, because you said it's not a plant. It's not like it's its own thing, right? So I'm
Mhm.
thinking of it as a plant.
Yeah.
So,
No, mushrooms have lots and lots of nutrients and very
mhm,
varied nutrients. Like they're
mhm.
not even fully explored yet.
Wow, that's cool. So what do you do? Well, okay. So first, when you were studying it in that class, um, how much of it was you guys actually like got to go out and either hunt mushrooms or you're tasting them? Is the teacher bringing them in? Like, what are you guys doing?
So we never learned about tasting them in college, which is probably smart to not teach
Right.
18 to 20-year-olds that.
Right.
But we only went out around the campus like 2 or 3 times throughout the
Mhm.
semester. Most of it was in the lab looking at things under the microscope
Mhm.
and learning textbook type of things
Right.
or like uses. So like
Right.
interesting stuff is that like a lot of oil cleanup or
Mhm.
like plastic degeneration. You what's the right word for that?
Um.
Not recycling, but
Oh.
decomposing,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
decomposing
Mhm.
oil and plastic. They're mostly doing from the work of enzymes that they get from specific
Oh,
mushrooms.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So
That's
there's
neat.
lots of different cool practical uses.
Right. And so then I of course have to ask you about so magic mushrooms. Like what's the, I guess, the deal there? Are there that many that grow regularly without people attempting to grow them, or like do you have to be careful
Yes.
of that when you're tasting them?
You don't really have to be careful of that because the ones that are magic mushrooms do not look like any other edible mushrooms per
Oh,
se.
really?
Uh,
Okay. Mhm.
yeah, yeah, you would not be mistaking it for something else.
Okay. Okay.
There's one that you might. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you have a cow pasture, it is very depending on the climate and where you are. It is more than likely that there are going to be magic mushrooms depending on the time of year. Um,
Okay. Okay. So
yeah,
that's so they
and then
just like come up on their own. It's not.
yep, I mean,
Yeah.
so those ones, like the ones in cow pastures, most of them were introduced. They were not native species to America.
Okay.
But now they technically are, and they've created their own like species, if you will.
Okay. That's interesting. You don't have to answer this. Have you tried magic mushrooms? you can, you can say no comment if you want.
I have, and I feel okay in answering that now that Oregon has officially decriminalized and allowed the medical use and
Okay.
research of magic mushrooms.
Nice. Are you
So,
from there, or
no,
you're just saying?
no, I'm not. I'm just
Okay.
it's so while of course I was not using it for any medical reasons,
Right.
it is one of the most innovative medicines that we can research right now. It has proven, not even just inference, but proven really, really good rates of healing addiction issues,
Oh wow.
smoking, alcoholism, and depression. And
Oh wow.
these are issues that are very hard to get past without going to rehab, which doesn't
Right.
work most of the
Doesn't
time.
always work. Yeah. Yeah.
So now that we can legally do more research, we
Right.
might be able to find more practical uses in medicine for this.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. So then, okay, so when you tried them though, was that before your mushroom class and your interest in it, or
Yeah.
okay, okay, it's like or after, or
So
both?
I was a very sneakily but a problem child in high school. I hid behind having two older brothers who made all the mistakes first.
Very nice. You learned from
Mhm.
them. That's awesome. Yeah, I learned from my older brother as well, but I didn't learn. I took a different route. So instead of learning and being like, oh, well, I can do bad things this way, instead I was like, life is a lot easier if you just follow the rules. I don't see what your problem is. So I just learned
Yeah, I remember you
to
were a
follow the
rule
rules.
follower. Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you switch over from the goody Amy into something else?
Just something else. Oh, geez. Maybe the summer I was 21 for like a minute. Still was probably nothing compared to anybody else, but like yeah, so I haven't tried any magic mushrooms. I'm not against it now. I definitely will I will say that dare in 5th grade, they brainwashed me.
Oh yeah, they
I
really
believed
do.
everything they told me, and it wasn't until I got to college that I started having some friends that smoked pot regularly, and they might even be in grad school. I was like, I don't understand. This is a gateway drug. Why aren't you in the gutters now with like heroin? That's what I was promised as a 5th grader.
I was promised that people were going to be offering me drugs all over the place. I, I feel cheated.
You're right. Yeah, I didn't even have that many offers. That's hilarious. Yeah, so dare, yeah, some people dare didn't affect at all. They're like, screw that. But for me, it's like, oh my god, like, an adult is telling me something, it must be fact. So I better listen. Yes.
I think they've actually in some states at least like done away with dare, said like, ooh, that was bad, we're sorry
Yeah,
about
not
that.
yeah, it's not a good idea. And I feel like any kids, like, probably a kid like me, I didn't even need to hear that, right? I already told you that I learned it was easier to just follow the rules, right? So if my parents would have just told me not to do it, I wouldn't do it. But the kids who
you
they wanted to change their minds, they didn't care. They were going to do it anyway. So it's a waste of time.
Did you ever tell on your siblings?
I didn't. I was good, but also half the time I didn't know anything he was doing. My parents did, like I found out things once I was like into college or later, that stories would come up that my parents knew about, like, my brother had gotten into trouble for whatever, and I was oblivious for years. No one told me anything. But I say my for all the people who like to claim that teenage girls are worse than teenage boys, I always use, sorry, Jeff, I use my brother and myself as an example. Like, I was so much better. I go, you know what I lied to my parents about? And my mom knows this now. It's like, I lied about, let's see, going, so I was not allowed to ride with teenage drivers outside of our town, but the nearest ice skating rink was Indianapolis, and that was like 40 to 60 minutes away, and you had to take the interstate. So I would lie to go ice skating with my friends with a teenage
Rebel.
I know. It's like, and even when we got into an older age of, like junior, senior year of high school, because I hung out with obviously a pretty, I don't know, rule abiding group of friends. But even when the ones started to start, like, doing some high school underage drinking, I was always at the party, like, no, like, I don't care. You guys do whatever. But like, peer pressure wasn't a thing for me. I
Mm-hmm.
still didn't drink.
That's good. That's good that it wasn't a factor and you could still like go to parties but not feel that peer pressure.
Right. Well, yeah, parties is use that term loosely. It wasn't like I was going to the major parties.
No, I wasn't in that crowd either.
Yeah. It's like it was once my group of friends started venturing into it. But yeah, so I honestly didn't, my first drink was when I was studying abroad in England, and it was legal because I guess I was 20 at the time or whatever. And like they can drink at 18. So my very first drink was a glass of champagne.
I got you beat by 7 years. But in my defense, it is legal to drink in Texas with your parents' permission if they're there with you at any age.
At any age.
Any age. So my first drink was a beer that my oldest brother gave me when I was 13. Mm-hmm. And I think either 13 or 14, that same Christmas, my family decided to start a tradition of family shots for Christmas. So after one, like maybe half of the beer, I then tried my first shot of like Crown. I remember it was Crown Royale.
I was gonna ask what it was. Jesus, yeah.
And like not an easy liquor.
Yeah, like it's not like they like mixed it with a bunch of fun stuff. No. It's just straight up.
And the funniest part was because in my head, I only know how to do shots off of like what I see in TV or movies. So I just know that you do like this action. And I did that action without really thinking it through and just threw it on my face. So I think that was the last time we did family shots.
Oh my gosh, that's great. So when you had when your brother gave you the beer for the first time, what did you drink it all? Did you think it was gross, or were you just like, it was your brother, so you kind of had to drink it? What was the deal?
Yeah, I think it was more so the last, like I was like, oh, not that I had to drink it, but I was like, ooh, my brother's offering me a beer. Yeah, I'm gonna drink it. But I was like, I didn't really like the taste of it. It was like I probably didn't even finish the beer, so it was like it didn't really do anything. So I wasn't excited about it in any way, but it felt like it was like I'm bonding,
Right, yeah. It's like a big moment for what it symbolizes, but you don't like the taste. Yeah. So what did okay, so is that still the rule in Texas? Like, can kids like any age still drink if it's with your parents?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy. What part of Texas are you from?
Houston, Texas.
Houston. Okay. All right. Yes. I don't know much about Texas, so how would you describe it?
Houston is one of the more liberal cities. It goes probably Austin's most liberal, then Houston, then San Antonio. And Houston has so much culture, so much food, so much life, but you would not know unless you know exactly where to go for it. Otherwise, it just looks like a boring corporate city.
Really? Okay. So do they have like a cool downtown or anything, or is it not so much?
They have a good downtown, but it's so large because it's the fourth biggest city in the nation.
Right.
It's so large that it's segmented, that there are really cool parts, but you can't like get to more than one of them without getting on a bus or your car.
Right. Okay. I see. I'm just always curious because I lived in Chicago for a bit, and
Did you live in Chicago?
like 4 years, like after college, yeah,
Mm.
and I liked it. I liked it a whole lot at first, and then by the end of it, I was tired of all of it. but
Yeah.
but so I'm always curious because I think about like when I drive around, like downtown Orlando, or like drive on the outside, whatever, looking from I-4, and I'm like, it looks so pretty, and like it looks like it's a pretty decent size, like the building, everything looks pretty decent, but like when you're down there, it definitely doesn't have the same feel. Like no one's. I mean, I used
No.
to work down there in like the Seaside Bank building, so it's like kind of in the middle of a lot of stuff, and you can walk to good places for lunch, but other than that, it doesn't feel like a
No.
lived in
It
downtown.
it does feel like a very, very tiny, like almost like it was a town square in the olden days, and they just like built a little bit on top of it.
You're right. That's great. Yeah, a former town square. Yeah, but okay, so I was also gonna ask you, and I did warn you of this one. Not everybody gets a warning, but do you have any ghost and or alien stories?
I have two very well, one's really good, so I'll save that for the next.
Okay.
And then the other one was the first time I was like, oh wait, maybe ghosts are real. Um, but so I was working at a theater in a place that was still a town square actually, and just like it was in the 1800s in
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's one of the oldest cities in
Right.
America.
It's called
And
Jackson Hole. That's
Jackson, well, it's called Jackson, Wyoming. Everyone calls it Jackson Hole.
okay. It's like that's a ridiculous name.
It's a great travel spot, though. If anyone
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know about it, like go. It's or
Mm-hmm.
look into it. But so the theater, I was there because I was working at a theater there for 4 months, and the theater was in the second to oldest building that was still like had all of its original
Oh,
like
wow.
structure.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I wasn't so no, I wasn't told about this until after, but our director would always have us pray or like, not pray, but really have an intentional moment with
Mm-hmm.
ourselves before rehearsals or
Mm-hmm.
before a show. And so I remember turning around, like facing the audience, and just like closing my eyes to have that intentional moment.
Yeah.
And as I closed my eyes, I had this like shadow in like the after view in my
Mm-hmm.
like brain. You know what I mean, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like an outline of a man sitting in one of the chairs with like a hat on. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that was weird. But logical me was like, oh, obviously it was the way that the lights are on. So I just tried to
Right.
keep making it happen again. And I could not make it happen. And fast forward like a week later, one of the guys who grew up in the town and worked at the theater for a while, he was like, "Oh, have any of y'all met Top Hat Man?" I was like, "What?
Oh,
What do you
no.
mean?" He's like, "Yeah, Top Hat Man. He likes to watch the shows and he really likes the theater. Sometimes he's in the audience, sometimes he's in the lobby. He's like, but yeah, he's like kind of like our ghost. He's not mean or not nice, but he just likes to hang around." I was like, oh, maybe maybe I have seen him. So that was interesting
Oh my
that
gosh.
it matched up too well, too well.
Right. 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 And you found out about it, yeah, after you'd already seen
Exactly.
it, so it wasn't like on your mind. Yeah.
Yes. So that was scary. Well, not scary, interesting.
Yeah.
I then wanted to try and converse with Top Hat Man, but he did not reveal himself again.
Oh.
And then the second, and I think more poignant, at least to me, because it's more like, oh, this is real,
Mm-hmm.
is I was a twin in the womb,
Oh,
but
wow.
it was pretty early on that my twin died,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess I absorbed her.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it was early on, I know it was a her. Um, and
Oh,
the
wow.
reason is because so one thing is uh, my closet door whenever I was growing up. So I must have been like maybe 5 or 6 or so. It was one of those where if you close the door, the lights turn off. So
Oh,
my
okay.
mom said my mom would find me in my closet, just kind of like speaking to myself with the door closed, so the lights were
Mm-hmm.
off. And she would open the door, and she said that she asked me, she's like, Connor, what are you doing? Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my twin sister. And she never told me anything
Right. You
about
didn't know.
that.
Yeah.
Uh, and so she freaked out and called her mother. I was like, oh my God.
Yes, like kids say the creepiest things.
Yeah, it is. And that's, I think there's something to that
Yeah.
because I even had like daydreams and just like like very, very urgent longings for a twin. And like
Mm-hmm.
I would see myself in my mind like running around with a sister, and it was always gonna like someone my age or someone close to my
Mm-hmm.
age. And just like by habit, it didn't
Right.
come from anything really, until I was 10, and my mom told me about having a twin,
Yeah.
and all of that stopped. It just went. So I
Oh,
was like, oh,
weird.
it was almost like, oh, now that I finally like knew,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
I didn't have to be reminded all the time.
Right. Oh, wow, that's crazy. So what did
Yeah.
you think right when your mom told you? Like, I mean, at 10,
I
what does
was
a 10-year-old
mad.
think? For her
I
not
was like,
telling
I'm
you?
10 years old and I'm just finding this out.
That's hilarious. Because, like, as an adult, I think 10 sounds pretty young. But you're like, I've been, like, you waited all this
No,
time?
so you know how like you really don't remember much in your childhood unless there's a
Right.
strong emotion connected to it.
Hmm.
That was a strong emotion for me being told,
Wow.
because I did feel that betrayed, even though
Right.
like to us it's like you're 10 years old, but like
Right,
it's not.
right. Yeah, it's like, how was
I
I supposed to know you were ready
Yeah,
to hear that?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, those are good. Those are good answers to the ghost stories. Because we were talking about you mentioned the theater, and because I mentioned Chicago earlier, I forgot that um I haven't seen it personally, but like so when I worked one of the places I worked in Chicago was actually a tea company. It's called Argo Tea. But it was more of like a
Love
tea.
Argo.
Oh, you know Argo? Okay. So
Yeah.
I used to work in the corporate office on the State Street cafe. There's a basement, and that's like where the corporate offices were. Maybe they still are. I don't know. And someone was telling us about how I believe whoever we were neighbored with either used to be a theater or something, but basically it was that, I feel like as so many ghost stories go, there was a fire, like a tragic fire, and like all
Yeah.
these people like couldn't, whatever it was like a new theater or something for the time, and they opened it before like the fire escapes had actually been like
Was it the
put
Fox
in.
Theater?
Maybe, does that sound?
It sounds familiar. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I could be wrong.
I don't know. I'll take it. I don't know what it was, but yeah, it was. Yeah. So the story, I guess, was that. Oh, no, no, no. Okay, it wasn't the fire. The problem was that the like fire escape doors were put in that you had to pull them in to get out, and everyone's rushing and panicking, so they're all
Oh,
pushing, so no one could get out. And that was so like the story was told that that's when like fire code whatever decided, oh yeah, doors should probably push out like if
probably.
trying to
There's a
escape a fire.
stampede.
But yeah, but I remember someone saying like a lot of the people that worked in the cafe upstairs who would have to be there a lot later than we would because they'd be closing or whatever, they would have weird stories, and like they didn't like to go down to the basement where we worked, which they didn't usually have to, but I think there were like a couple things maybe storage wise or whatever that they had to go down there for at night. And so yeah, some of course somebody had someone with like a lady in like an old timey dress or whatever that they'd see like floating through the place. But yeah, I had totally forgotten that until you mentioned the theater, and we just were talking about Chicago. I was like, oh yeah, I was like, what was it? I was like, oh god, the doors opened the wrong way.
I'm I'm glad that you've done so many of these interviews now, and you just remembered a new ghost
Yeah,
story.
exactly. You're right. Yeah, it's awesome. Obviously I love doing these. Thank you for coming on. Do you want to talk about how you're back in the social media game now? Is this an
Am I?
announcement or
I
no?
guess this is my
Yeah,
hurrah back into social media. Yeah, well, yeah, you and I, we are part of a really great networking group, and we recently have been talking about getting back into social media after a long COVID break.
right.
So yeah, so I guess this can be my official marker of getting back and not being afraid of you know
That's
getting out there, even though I've been distant on
right.
online for so long.
Right. Yeah, don't be afraid to come back. Like nobody's watching and is gonna be upset that like what? Like that, he thinks he can come back here after being gone for so many like
I'm
you're
still telling
forever,
myself
it's like you're forever exiled from social media. But I'm only making the jokes because I have felt that way too.
that.
And yeah, and it's funny because when I start to feel that way, shout out to my forever business coach, Sherry Summers. Um, she has this weird sixth sense about her that it's like it's not even necessarily that like because I have automatic things set up for my social media, so like things will still be posting for me, but
Mhm.
I'll be like aware that I haven't done something like spur of the moment or whatever, that kind of thing, and I'll just be starting to get into a weird little, I'll say, entrepreneur like funk. And so it never fails. She'll call me at random. We don't talk on the phone that often, and like it happened a couple weeks ago, and she called me and just like, hey, like was gonna touch base about like Black Friday planning or something, but then she's like, but how are you? And I was like, well, it's like not great. It's like telling her everything, and she's like, Amy. And so this is what's great about having a business coach or a coach like life coach in general that you stay with for a long time, because we've been together for probably almost 2 years now, and she can like she recognizes now things like patterns, so she's like, Amy, she goes, I had a feeling, she goes, because this is what you do. She goes, one, this is something that you do this time of year, and two, this is a general pattern for you, like, so she calls them wins, but she's like, whenever you have a win of any type, you turn that win into pressure. She goes, and then that pressure turns into more pressure, and you get feeling like overwhelmed and you get into a funk. she's like so I'm
I
trying,
I
yeah,
relate so much to that.
yeah, she's like, so I'm trying to break you of that, but in the meantime, let's at least recognize that that is what's happening. Like, so yes, so yeah, so you feel the same way then, like you'll
I
something
do.
good will kind of happen, and then it's like, oh no. Like there's so
Yeah.
much to
It's
do.
it's yeah, it's definitely that. Or if I miss even something by like one day or like a few hours, I'm like, oh no, I missed it. I'm like, I should get to that. And then I
Right.
feel guilty about that I hadn't yet. And so I guess my brain wants to not feel that guilt.
Yeah,
So I just don't even bring it into my thought.
I
Uh,
see. Yeah.
until it goes like so long. I'm like, oh well, uh, we're gonna forget about each other. That's not happening anymore because too far gone.
You just disconnect. You're like, all right, I
Yep.
give up.
Yeah,
That's
and it's not a healthy thing.
it's not, yeah, it's it might be what your normal pattern is as of this moment, but yeah, it's
Mhm.
something to, I call it deprogramming and reprogramming.
No, and it's definitely because as I said, like the reason I got into health was because of my mental health.
Hmm.
And I've done so much to make it better through
Right.
nutrition, but there's
Yeah.
only so far that can take you. I think I definitely need to get myself a coach that can know my patterns and call me out when I need to be
Right.
called out.
Right. Yes. And help, yeah, help guide you along. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Nutrition, obviously it's helped you immensely. That's my next step. See, I went coach first.
Yeah. Which is perfect because we can help each other.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like some people are easier to go like the coach therapy route or whatever, and then other people are like, no, I've got this. Like, I'll do all of the I don't even know what you'd call it, like physiological stuff. I don't know. We'll just call it
Yeah,
nutrition.
I guess
All the
I'm a
stuff for your
very
body.
I see it like I'm very analytical and kind of like
Mhm.
scientific. So I'm like, okay, I know what this does chemically to my body and how it's going to help and change this. So I'm going to do that. And in the same vein, I can recognize every single one of my problems and self-diagnose. I'm like, yep, that's stupid, or that's a really bad habit and very destructive.
Right.
But it's the therapy part or the working
Yes.
on the psychosis part that is
Right.
my difficulty.
Right. And I'm good. Well, I've become good with the whole, I'll say self-aware and like, sort of self-analysis type deal. Um, I'm definitely not an analytical person where I'm like, oh, this does this to my body, blah, 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 like, whatever. But I think, uh, yeah, so I've said this to a few people, but there's a book that I'm reading because of Coach Sherry called Outwitting the Devil.
Mm.
And it's by Napoleon Hill, who did the Think and Grow Rich book. And it's also from the 1930s. And so much of it about it is interesting. In short, he wrote it in like 1938 or something, and he hid it, and it didn't get published until 2011,
Wow.
based on the groups of people it would upset, like namely educators and religious leaders. So, um, but I found that book. I'm still getting through it, but like it's been super interesting and I'll say like enlightening. But like when Sherry happened to call me a couple weeks ago, it was really getting to me that I felt like I was self-aware, and I was like hyper aware of all the things that like I was kind of, doing wrong or falling victim to or whatever. But it was like I couldn't switch it the other way. I was
Yeah.
just like obsessing over it. Well, I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing this, like I've been doing it this way. And so yeah, when I told Sherry, she's like, that it's okay. Like you're you're at least recognizing it, right? Like that's got to be the first step, of course. And then I was thinking, I was like, well, yeah, and I haven't even finished the book. Like here I am panicking. Like I don't even know what he's gonna summarize this as. It's like, what's he gonna tell me to do in the end? So yeah, so I was gonna say I'm like that with you, where it's like I can notice and pinpoint all the things that are that I would like to be doing differently, or more positively, but
Yeah.
you're just stuck noticing what you're doing at the
Uh,
moment.
I so you know how Elizabeth
Yes.
Gilbert, she has been talking a lot about this year being a real big vibrational and energy change
Mm-hmm.
and shift in the in Earth and in our
Mm-hmm.
world. Um, so and I'm very much I'm connected to like the
Right.
vibrational and energy, and like
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
that. But without like really seeking anything out in that sense. The past 2 weeks since the end of October, which is when she said the
Right.
biggest would happen, I've had so many spiritual aspects come into my life and like in very coincidental ways that were like
Yeah.
too perfect. I was like, the way that we met or the way that this message came to me,
Mm-hmm.
very specifically dealing with like
Right.
inner like self-awareness and everything. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is too coincidental to not like she Elizabeth is onto something.
Yeah, she knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm big into, and this is something as of the last couple of years too, where it's like, energy, vibes, whatever you want to call it. And when I'm talking to anyone who's not really in the same mindset, it's like I know I sound like I just say hippy dippy. I'm like, I know.
Hmm.
I understand what I sound like to you, but I swear it's like a real thing.
Yeah, and in the end, it really is the same as any person's different religions.
Mhm.
It's just people view the same exact thing in a different way.
Right.
And
Hmm.
may, there is not a single explanation made by man that can truly comprehend or relay the true thought behind the universe. It's like we
Mm-hmm.
do our best, and we have different ways of understanding it for ourselves,
Right.
but
Right.
not one way is right.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I have to tell you this because this is a big thing that I've also been sharing with people. And it's not a new movie or like show or whatever, but on Netflix, it's called The Secret. There was a book for it too. It's all about the law of attraction. Have you already seen it, read it?
I saw it when I was like 11 with my parents, so
Oh, wow.
it's due for a rewatch.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like it's all the stuff that I've heard bits and pieces of throughout my couple of years of like coachings and Tony Robbins, this and that. But to my therapist actually was one who told me, you need like this is your assignment. She goes, I know you don't like to read, go watch this movie. And I was like, oh wow, like I don't know. I just felt like everybody needs to watch it at least once
Yeah.
and see what they think.
I need to rewatch it. Now this is my perception because I don't really remember it. My perception of it from an outsider who hasn't watched it is that it's such a hyper palatable, marketable version of it,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yes.
really good for the
Yeah.
masses, but then
Mm-hmm.
also makes it seem like a not. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like
I'm
it
not sure if it takes
makes
away.
yeah, I feel like what I really liked about it was kind of how they once they got to the point of explaining how to use it or apply it. Like I feel like I've heard about the law of attraction forever, but when they start almost using like real life examples and talking to people, and not just random people. Like one of them was like the author for like the chicken soup for the soul guy.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so I really liked how they talked about applying it and using it and kind of some of the I guess like pitfalls to avoid. Like if you're thinking like if all you want is to get out of debt, it's like, well, the universe is only hearing you think about one thing: debt, debt, debt. It's not listening to
Mhm.
if you want it or don't want it. Like
Yep. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
And that's
So
it's true. Everything from physical to what you say to
right.
thoughts, they
Mm-hmm.
like scientifically have vibrations and they have
Right.
different pulses, and those obviously are doing something.
Right.
And I've been telling myself too in the same vein, like I can't jokingly call myself stupid or like something like that
Yeah. Oh
because
yeah, that's something I've been yeah. Mm-hmm. You're right.
because it does the exact same thing. Then you start unknowingly believe it, and then you start not valuing yourself.
Right, right. And the people who say, it's like, oh, well, I've like, I'm so bad with money, or I've always been bad with money, or like just anything. I've always, like you said, like, oh, I'm just so stupid, or this and that. Like, don't pay attention to me, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it does have effects, but yeah. So that one, so that's something that I highly recommend. I know we are over our hour, and I don't want to keep you forever. But so something. This is the first episode. I'm going to do this. I want to start including at the end plugs. So I know we talked about business a bit at the beginning, but do you have anything that you want to plug?
Yes. So something that I've been offering for anyone that are like friends or in my networking groups is I love to do free supplement reviews, which I did for you,
Yes.
Amy.
And yeah, sorry, I'll chime in real quick.
Yeah,
So the
please do.
supplement reviews uh was like, I mean, even more than what I expected, like impressive, because he really, I mean, I took pictures of the supplements I take, the bottles and like the ingredients and stuff, sent him over. He literally looks up everything, tells you what's good, what's bad, kind of what's neutral, doesn't matter, and explains how they work in your body and compares them, to like the Zinzino stuff. And if it's something that's like pretty much equal, I'll just say okay, like, or you win this round. But
and
yeah, I
and for
was very
you
impressed.
and for you, the only supplements you were taking were
Right.
just happenstance directly correlated with the like three things that I use in my business.
Oh,
So
nice.
but for anyone else, no matter what it is that you take, because there's so much that I am not able to provide within my own business, but
Right.
I will definitely tell you what might be a better source,
Right.
or what you could get the same thing but for cheaper, but and still the
Mm-hmm.
same quality. I love to help people be
Right.
healthier, and a big part of that is not taking the wrong supplements, because that can be more damaging than you think you're helping.
Mm-hmm. And you clearly are very knowledgeable on it and enjoy the research part of it.
Yeah.
At least
And
I would assume that. I mean, it seems like you really enjoy it.
oh yeah, so I'll just say real quick.
Yeah.
I was helping not even a friend. I really met him the day of, but we clicked really well, and he tore his meniscus, which is like the cartilage in the knee.
Okay.
And I've done a lot with bone health, like healing bone and
Mm-hmm.
healing tendon, but never cartilage. So
Mm-hmm.
I gave him like my normal joint and bone regeneration plan.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was like, okay, cartilage is different. So I did a good 2 to 3 hours of like
Mm-hmm.
reading through research papers and like trials and everything.
Right.
And I found out so much cool information. And then from that, I found a new supplement that is perfect for him that I would never
Mm-hmm.
have known
That's awesome. So yeah, so you clearly, this is a passion.
of.
You really enjoy it.
I do.
That's awesome. So yeah, so I guess for people who want to reach out to you, I mean, I've tagged you in the video. Well, or I'll make sure that I tagged you. I told you earlier, I was like, I'm not sure if it popped up, but I'll make sure you're tagged in it.
And
Yeah.
if I post on the Zoom chat, does it show up on Facebook as well?
No, but when we're done with this, you can just post in the comments and
Yep.
post all your information there. That would be super. And then I have to go ahead and plug some stuff really quick too, because as I mentioned, Coach Sherry, I've been getting a little bit of a talking to for a while now that I never plug myself properly. And I think Connor, I don't know if you heard me on wait, were you at BNI on Wednesday? Yeah,
No,
I
not
can't.
this week.
No, not this one. Okay, so this Wednesday, my 45 seconds was, believe it or not, a lot of people that I know well, even in business, and they know my name and my company name, are shocked to find out that I have an online tea shop. So I go, so it's like, so today all I'm here to say is I sell tea and it's online. Like, so like my message is getting lost because I like to do all the things like this tea show, and now I have like our the private group, the calling all tea timers and Anglophiles, where we have our Friday group teas, and I forget to tell people, like there's people in that group that don't know that I sell tea, so I have to tell everyone, and it's not just tea in general. So I need to focus. It's extraordinary flavors of tea. So I don't carry anything that's like, I'll say, basic that you could find in a store easily, and also it's very British inspired tea shop.
So I'll jump in here too, because
Thank you.
I got a
Yeah.
free little sampling from
Yes.
Amy, which was so sweet. But yeah, she gives you these like little packages, and you do one every month for people, I guess, who
Yes. The subscription box. Yeah, for the British. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if it was did I get like what was a full subscription or just like a little
No,
sampling?
you got a little sampler.
I
Yeah.
thought so. But it's still great because I was like, this very well could be the full, and I'd be very happy.
Oh, I love.
Um,
That's awesome.
but yeah, so Amy remembered that one of my favorite teas is Rooibos, and so one of the teas that she sourced recently was an amazing like baked apple Rooibos for the fall. And honestly, I texted her right after and I said, this reminded me why I love Rooibos tea. Like it was
Oh,
that good.
that's awesome.
So I like that qualities of high importance with
Mm-hmm.
that. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
like it came with a cute little fake pound or like a
The British pound note.
um, and then like a nice handwritten card. And yeah, it was all just like so like neat, and even the wrapping paper had like
Oh
stamps
yeah,
on it that were so like
yeah.
so British.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Um,
great.
Thank you. And then that reminds me, because I don't think I've told you. So Dee, who we know through like another networking group that we all chatted that same time, I sent him some of the green tea because remember he had said he'd only ever had plain green tea, and I was like,
Mhm.
what? I was like, well, let me send you. So I sent him a couple different flavors of my green tea, and he texted me and he was like, oh my god, this is life changing. What have I been missing this whole time? He had never tried a flavor with his green tea. So I'm happy to spread the gospel of flavor teas.
Yes.
But okay, well, Connor, thank you so much for your time and your
Yes.
extended time. I hope I'm not keeping you from anybody
No,
right
no,
at the
not at
moment.
all. And I'll just say I will put my email in the
Yes.
chat on Facebook. And if anyone wants to just email me and tell me that they saw me on the tea time
Yeah.
and ask for a supplement review, I would be happy to do that for you.
Awesome. Yes, please do that. Yeah, it's super easy on I'll say our part, mine and Facebook parts. You have to do the hard part. You have to research it all
See,
and
but I
type
find
it
it
out.
fun.
But for everyone who's thinking like, oh, do I want to mess with it? Yes, just take a picture of your supplements and email it over to Connor, and he'll take care of you. So
Even if you take
that's all I
one
have to say.
thing, it's worth looking at.
Yeah, it was very helpful. So, okay, with that, this has been Virtual Tea Time with Amy, and my special guest was Connor Tinglum. Connor, thank you so much again for being on.
Thank you
And
so much for having me.
yes, and thank you everyone who watched live or watches into eternity on YouTube. And I will, I guess, see you, Connor, probably Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Cheers.
cheers. Bye.